We will break in on a speech given tonight, December the 4th, by Harold Moody.
Because, after all, you are certainly representative of the youth. And I would like to say at the very outset that you are one of the primary targets of the communists throughout the world. When I say you, of course, I mean not just you who are here this evening, but I mean all youth in all nations over this globe. In order to talk to you young people with any degree of intelligence on this subject of communism, I first need to tell you, of course, that the subject is indeed a vast one, and it covers such a wide realm, a wide area, that it would be preposterous for me to attempt to cover with even the slightest degree of detail any one area of the communist apparatus. But on the other hand, in order to talk to you intelligently, or to talk to any group intelligently on this subject or any phase of it, it is essential that you understand a few basic fundamentals about this thing which we call communism. First, in just a very few moments, let me try to tell you what it is. You have been living, of course, in an atmosphere, a world atmosphere, ever since you were born, that has been blackened, darkened, or covered by this thing, this philosophy which we call communism. When you were born during the war, the communist nation Soviet Russia was an ally of the United States in the war against Germany and Hitler. After that, of course, you have seen the supposedly good relationships which existed between Soviet Russia and the United States separate or break apart, where today the number one great enemy directed against the United States and against all nations and all peoples who are free is Soviet Russia and her allies, her communistic comrades throughout the world. The principal one, of course, being China. I told you that at the outset it would be very important if I tried to tell you what communism is. There are three things, perhaps, that will help you understand what it is. First of all, it is a philosophy, a belief which great numbers of people in this world have. The one thing that you must always remember about it is that it is atheistic. Communism is godless. If you were to visit a church or a social room in a church such as you have here this evening in Russia tonight, you would see no young people there. If you attended church in the Soviet nation, or even in the countries that have been overpowered or swallowed up by the communist influence, such as Bulgaria or Hungary or Yugoslavia, Latvia, North Korea, and so on, you would find in the churches there few, if any, people your age. You would find instead people probably 60 and up. No youth. The youth pass by the churches and look inside and make fun of the older people who are there. And of course, in Russia, if communism continues over a period of perhaps 2 more decades, the churches will not have to be closed by force in Russia. They will just simply die or fade away, because there will be no people left to go. The young will have been indoctrinated or brainwashed to stay away from anything that has the sound of religion. And so when the old folks die out, churches will merely pass from the scene in Russia and China and in all countries which are communistic over a number of decades. Communism does not believe in God. A communist will tell you that. He will admit it, and he will say it with a sense of pride. The philosophy of communism is what we call a materialistic philosophy. It has been described as a belief that of matter in motion. They attempt to tell you that everything that is, human beings, subjects such as we see here in the ceiling, or material of which the flag is made, the tree, those are all merely material objects. And remember I said first, human beings are considered as material objects. They're just matter, nothing more, nothing less than that. They have no more infinite quality, which we call spirit, or which we call soul, than does the floor upon which we walk. Everything is material. No soul, no conscience, of course, and of course no morals. And that should make it very easy for you, when you realize this point, to understand why a communist nation or a communist group or a communist person can do anything. I repeat that, can do anything, including murder, mass murder, that is, blackmail, lying, deceit, destruction, treachery, anything whatsoever which is repulsive to you and to me. The communist can do it without the slightest twinge of conscience, because he has none. The communists feel that anything which advances their cause to the ultimate day when world communism will be in existence, or when all countries the world over will be communized, anything which advances them closer to that day is a moral and just act. So that Mr. Kruschev, when he bragged about Stalin's mass murder of 9 million Ukrainians, he admitted that Stalin was insane, but he also said that he was a good man. And the fact that he killed 9 million made him good, because it advanced the cause of communism in that country. There is no morality in the eyes and minds of a communist as you and I understand morals. And you must appreciate that point when you think about our government officials dealing with the communists. Mr. Eisenhower, a man I'm sure we all agree who is a man of high morals and high ideals, when he attempted to deal with Khrushchev, found himself dealing with a man who claimed to have high ideals and to be a man of peace, and a man who wanted to peacefully coexist. But Mr. Khrushchev's ideals of morality are not like yours and mine. He would stoop to nothing, absolutely nothing, if it would advance the cause which he represents. And by doing whatever he did, he could say that it was a just and a moral act as a communist would interpret it. I want you to think how difficult it would be to try to arrive at any kind of understanding, agreement, or compromise with people of that nature. The sooner the United States and its people who represent it realize that you cannot find any position of working with such people, the better off this United States will be. Because every attempt we make to cooperate and work with them, we find ourselves being, in the end, nothing but suckers. Check each of the summit conferences, 5 of them, to which we have sent our best minds and to which they have sent theirs, and see who won what and who lost what. The United States has never won a single thing. Nothing. The communists have won. It's almost unbelievable what they have actually accomplished at these summit conferences. They say now they want no war. Of course not. Why should they want war? Because they're confident that they will gain all they seek without it. Thus far they have been very successful. And finally, communism believes in no private ownership. Your father would not own his home, and you won't own yours if you ever live in a communist-dominated country. It'll be owned by the state, and you will perhaps be given the privilege of living or residing there. You will not own your car. The people will not own the railroads. They will not own the grocery stores or the businesses. They will own nothing. In China, the men and women of China who work in the communized farms don't even own their children. Their children are removed from them and reared in the government-owned and government-operated and government-supervised child, can't recall what they're called, but it's the area where they take all the children and rear them separate and away from their mother and father. That gives you a little bit, I think, of the picture of communism. Again, I repeat, you can't possibly begin to understand because of the depth and the vastness of the philosophy of this thing. But those are the principal things which should open your eyes as to what this thing is. Now perhaps the second thing you would like to know is, how did it start? The philosophy of communism is not necessarily new. It began as a socialist philosophy. The one who proposed the philosophy which the Russians have more or less embodied in their desire for world domination was that submitted by Karl Marx, who was a German philosopher, sort of a ne'er-do-well. He sort of lived from hand to mouth all of his life. He was more interested in his thinking and his thoughts than he was in earning a living. by manual labor and that kind of thing. He did write for the New York Herald Tribune, I believe it was, at a number of articles for which he received some money. But he was a very impoverished man. He was the son of, I believe they were German Lutherans. His parents were quite religious, although Karl Marx himself didn't bother to become connected with any form of church or religious life. He wrote what's known as the Communist Manifesto, which is a small book embodying his principles, or the principles which the communists in Russia have adopted as their very own. He was assisted by Friedrich Engels, another German who worked with Karl